So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. John Lott coming on with us here. He is the founder of the Crime Prevention Research Center. We've had him on previously. It's been a while since we've had him. With all of these things that's happening with the crimes, like in Cincinnati, where you see the white couple beat in the streets by mobs of black violence. And then you also see here in New York, Manhattan, the shooter who has goes out there and then and delivers weapons to killing people, shooting cops. This stuff's not going away, it seems, because we got all of these things like laws there that's preventing all them to be able to defend themselves. We still have to deal with this. And here we are with the leftist media getting out there trying to make a big deal about this and gun violence, and also covering up things like what happened in Cincinnati. This is a very incredible time that we live in. So let's go ahead and welcome Dr. John Lott to the program. It's good to have you back.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, excuse me, sir. The first thing that I'd like to start with you about, because this is really right here in the public eye. They arrested 5 people that were part of this violence that was happening in the streets over the past weekend. They beat the living daylights out of this couple and then knocked out this white woman. And it's just, and the media wants to go and say that the whole context isn't there, and that when we're not seeing the bigger picture of what happened there with these white people that were mobbed and beat by black people. This right here can't go without anybody suffering the consequences for it. But it seems like they keep on trying to put these kind of things in the rug. You put out a really good article talking about this sort of thing, about how the violence upon another people group as compared to what they're saying. Maybe you can fill us in on what you see going on here in America with things like this.
Well, I don't know what type of context could be used to go and justify that type of violence, even if the individual had said something that was considered offensive or whatever. You can't go and beat somebody like that. Words are different from actual physical violence. The video that I saw indicated that the man who was originally beaten was first hit from behind with a sucker punch. And so it's not, maybe there's some video that's before that that shows some interaction between the individuals, but at least that seemed to indicate that the person who was being hit was surprised by the action. The woman who came in to the scene later, possibly to go and try to help the man there. It's very difficult to see what she could have possibly done in order to justify the violence against her. And I guess that there was a third person who was also beaten up. Excuse me. And, but whatever somebody might have said, even assuming that that's the case, isn't going to justify that type of violence. So given kind of the racial component of this, we went and looked to see what the data showed from the Bureau of Justice Statistics for violent crime in between races. And if you look at the rate that blacks commit violent crime against whites, it's about over 9 times more frequent than the rate that whites commit violent crimes against blacks. Blacks commit violent crimes against Hispanics at a rate almost twice the rate that Hispanics commit violent crimes against blacks. And blacks commit violent crimes against Asians at about 89 times more than Asians commit violent crimes against blacks. So, those are just some things to try to keep some perspective on these things. But look, the only reason for bringing these types of race things up is just that the media concentrates on them. Hopefully one can go and look at people as individuals rather than as part of groups here.
I agree with that. I think that that's one of the biggest problems that we still continue to have, like, especially when you go on to X, there's a lot of noise that goes on there. People, I think, that like to start a lot of trouble regarding these issues because, the sensationalism surrounding it, the clickbait. And I think that really kind of muddies the water about this. But one thing I did notice about that chart that when I was reading your article was the black against the Asians was so high. Is there like a particular reason for that, or is it just the areas that they're in where that happens?
Well, I mean, Asians just don't commit many violent crimes. They commit violent crimes at extremely low rates. So, if you have a group that commits violent crime at a relatively high rate and you contrast them to a group that commits very few violent crimes, it's not super surprising that you get those types of large gaps that occur.
Right. So what do you think
for
about,
example, about 33% of black males have a felony record. You're talking about maybe 2% or so, 2.5% of Asians have a felony record.
Right. So what do you think about the fact that I believe it was the sheriff or the police chief, where she was saying that that they, about the whole context of the thing. It's kind of like, are they trying to sweep that kind of thing under the rug? Is there an issue with law enforcement not wanting to go after these types of people as compared to others who don't really typically commit crimes?
Right. Well, I mean, it seemed like she was kind of minimizing it to a large extent. And, I don't know. It's she wanted to go and say, look at all the wonderful things that are happening in the city that don't involve crime. And that's true. I mean, they have a lot of events there. But this was still a pretty horrific event. And I agree with the police. I mean, here you had, 100 people or so watching this and filming it. But apparently only one person called 911 to alert them to the problem that was occurring there. And, that's a problem. People, you have to ask why people don't think about calling the police for protection. I mean, it'd be nice if there were some people there that actually were able to go and protect these individuals before the police arrived. But unfortunately, there wasn't anybody who was carrying concealed or whatever that was willing to step in. I mean, you had some blacks that came to the rescue and tried to help out those individuals that were being hurt. But, you even had women who were stopping and kicking on the victims that were there. And so it was very disturbing to watch.
Do you think that do you think that we've come into a point in America where people just really don't want to get involved, defend somebody? Have we made it to a point in many of these places like Cincinnati or even New York or any kind of places that like this, that where people are not wanting to step in and help? Are they afraid, or is it more about they want the attention that it brings? What do you think is the deal here? Why nobody really wanted
unfortunately,
to do it?
you had a number of people that joined in on the violence that was there, others that were rooting them on. I mean, you did have some people, some blacks that were there that came to the rescue and tried to protect the people. You could see, for example, for some of the people that were, when they were being beaten, after a while, you would have a group of people gather around them in order to kind of protect them, prevent others from coming over and attacking them. They'd essentially form a circle around those individuals, and that's great. It'd be nice if more people had more quickly called 911. But, even if you call 911 in a city, 6-minute response time is, considered fast. And I don't remember timing how long the video lasted, but 6 minutes, obviously a lot of violence would have occurred within 6 minutes.
Right. Anybody's ever been around any fights like that, it doesn't take long. I've been in areas where these kinds of things occur. It a couple of minutes, someone's down dead. It happens like that. I've seen it happen very, very quickly. Now let's swing to this one because of the shooting that just happened there in New York. You had this gentleman who went into the city. It seems like he was had some problem with the NFL, that maybe there might have been some kind of mental health issues that developed because of injuries. Not a lot's out about it yet. However, he went in there, and of course, the laws there prevent anybody, I believe, if I'm correct, from carrying any weapons to stop somebody like the guy did there in Michigan. But there's a real problem going on here with these people who pick these areas like that and start mowing people down because there's no one there to protect themselves. Of course, the media made it out. CNN talked about he was a white guy. Far from a white guy. I think he looked kind of Asian black to me, but I could be wrong about that. But it seems like there's an issue going on here with it. I don't know. Am I wrong? Or is this kind of like picking up in frequency with these areas again?
As you say, New York has a lot of gun control laws. The gun that he had was illegal for him to have in New York. It was illegal for him to go and carry a long gun like that in New York. So he was committing multiple crimes, would have faced significant prison term. The problem that you have with a lot of these laws, though, is that they don't really impose the right penalty on the right people. So, he murdered 4 people. Let's say he had lived. He would be facing 4 life sentences. Would really another 5 years taken from his 5th life really have mattered in terms of deterring him from committing the crime? It wouldn't have represented a real penalty. But for you or I to go and illegally carry a gun, it's very difficult to go and get a concealed carry permit, though this guy obviously openly carried. 5 years in prison would make us a felon and completely change our lives. Our lives would be completely turned upside down and destroyed if that was the case. And so what you have is a system of laws that make it less likely that the law-abiding citizens will have guns for protection than the criminals, even though obviously that's not the intention. But since you're really only imposing a real penalty on the law-abiding citizens and not somebody who's intent on committing some type of crime like he committed, the only thing that you've done is assure the criminal that he doesn't have to worry about any law-abiding citizens being able to go and stop him.
Right, and because he was basically walking through like this. People saw him with this before it even occurred. It was really incredible how that happened. Like you just said, that if it was one of us, or if, for that matter, if somebody who was actually carrying a weapon and then stopped the guy, that person would have suffered a lot of problems after that himself if he did that. So do you think that now we've enabled these people to believe that they can freely commit these crimes without any kind of fear of consequence?
Well, they will face consequence. Most of these times, most of these mass public shooters die at the scene like this guy did. They plan on committing suicide. But so the vast majority of these people, I mean, I don't know in this guy's case yet, but the vast majority of these individuals want to commit suicide, but they want to commit suicide in a way that's going to get the media attention. They feel unappreciated. They feel wronged in some way. And they want people to know that they were here. I mean, people have always been able to commit suicide forever. But someplace along the line, a few decades ago, people realized that they could get a lot of media attention if they committed suicide in the process of killing other people. They could get national and international attention. I mean, you read the diaries and manifestos for these mass murderers, and time after time, they'll say things like, if I can only kill more people than such and such did, I can get even more media attention. Or they'll say things like, well, at least my name will go down in the history books. And, these guys may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid. As I say, their goal is to get media attention. And they know if they go to a place where their victims aren't able to go and defend themselves, they're going to be more successful in killing more people. So you go through and look at the statements in the diaries and manifestos from these mass murderers, and time after time, they explicitly talk about going to places where they know their victims can't defend themselves. One of my biggest peeves with the media bias is that you would think that that's of newsworthiness, that's somewhat newsworthy. Why, when these guys explain in great detail why they picked the target that they did, and yet the media absolutely refuses to discuss those parts or even mention those parts of those manifestos and diaries. And they refuse to talk about it even when the police will mention it in their press conferences. After the Nashville Covenant school shooting, that same day, the Nashville police chief, who had read the woman's diary, said that she had investigated other targets, had looked at the Green Hills Mall in Nashville, but decided not to attack there because people had guns there, and she was worried that they would stop her. You look at something like the Buffalo supermarket shooter in New York. He had a similar discussion. He was worried. He wanted to go to a place where he didn't think anybody would have a concealed carry permit because he was worried that somebody, if they had that, would be able to go and stop him. He wasn't worried about a guard being there who was in uniform because he would know who that person was and take them out first. But if somebody's carrying concealed, you don't know whether the person's behind you or to the side or who it is you have to go and worry about. So you go, all the way back to Columbine, these mass murderers have been worried about people with permanent concealed handguns possibly stopping them. And but for some reason, the media just absolutely refuses to mention what I think would be considered very newsworthy information. And if it got out and the media would once in a while go and discuss it, it would be something that would, I think, change a lot of the gun control debate that we have.
I agree. That's really strange, actually. I was just thinking when you were saying that this guy, he goes there and then he leaves a suicide note there with his grievances toward the NFL and mental health issues. But then you talk about, obviously Audrey and the other ones, about how they were afraid about, those of us who would have weapons to stop them and kill them. But then at the same time, they want to go and then end themselves as well. I mean, it's kind of a weird thought process there.
No, they want to commit suicide. They want to die. They expect to die in these attacks, but they want to get some type of notoriety. They want to get some type of attention. The Nashville school shooter was a little bit different. She had kind of a cause that she was doing with regard to the trans agenda. But a lot of these individuals, you read their diaries or manifestos and they feel unappreciated. The guys complain that women won't go out on dates with them. And, you read their diaries and you get some good idea why the guys won't go out on dates with them. And, they complain a lot about life and that they want people to know that they were here. And so they figure they can get people to know that they were here by going and committing this type of mass murder. Sometimes they shoot themselves. Sometimes they die being shot by police. And sometimes they do what's called police-assisted suicide, where they put the police in a situation where they point the gun at the police and the police are forced to go and kill them. That happens about 75% of the time. The quarter of the time where they don't die, they virtually always planned on dying, wanted to die, but when it actually came down to pulling the trigger to go and kill themselves, they just weren't able to make themselves do that.
Interesting. So, ultimately, in your view, what is the answer to stopping all of this?
Well, it's what we were saying. Basically, what their goal is to get attention, okay? And their attention is related to the number of people they kill. And so you have to figure out some way to take away that attention. Now, you don't have to go and rewrite the First Amendment. I'm not even sure how one would go and try to do something like that. But you have to go and reduce the casualty count. And the way you do that is to make sure that somebody is there quickly with a gun. And if you have a lot more people carrying concealed and you make it clear to them that people are concealed. I mean, just look at school shootings. All the school shootings in the United States where anybody's been killed or wounded have all occurred at schools where teachers and staff aren't allowed to go and carry. We have like over 10,000 schools in the United States, public schools, that have armed teachers and staff. You have 20 states that allow it to varying degrees. Yet there's not been one single attack at any of those schools where anybody's been killed or wounded. So, the question is, do you want to have a sign in front of the school that says the school is a gun-free zone? Or do you want to have a sign in front of the school that says, warning, select teachers and staff at this school are carrying concealed handguns? So they don't know who it is that they have to worry about who might be able to stop them. And will use those guns to protect the students and others there at the school. One disagreement that I have with a lot of conservatives is they want to have armed school resource officers at the schools. And the problem is that if you have somebody in uniform, they have a real tactical disadvantage. If somebody's planning on attacking an area, they can wait for the officer to leave the area and move to another building, or they can move on to another target themselves. Or if they're going to insist on attacking there, who do you think they go after first? They're going to kill the one person that they know for sure has a gun, the school resource officer. If you're going to have school resource officers at schools, my advice, my very strong advice, is not to put them in uniform. Make them blend in so that they can't be identified. Make them the PE coach or a staff member or something like that there at the school. And, it's the same reason why, we have air marshals on planes. Do you think an air marshal ought to be in uniform? I assume not. I don't know anybody who thinks air marshals ought to be in uniform. And the reason is pretty obvious, and that is if you do happen to have a terrorist on a plane, putting an air marshal in uniform, who do you think the terrorist is going to try to take out first? If the terrorist takes out that one person first, then they're going to believe that they have free reign against going everybody else on the plane. So you want to make it so that the air marshal blends in as much as possible with everybody else on the plane.
I agree. Well, Dr. Lott, here in closing, how can everybody follow you and also find out more about the research and what you have told us here tonight, sir?
Well, they go to our website at crimeresearch.org. They can sign up for our email letters that we send out once every 2 weeks. They can subscribe to those, and they'll get our latest research that we do on all these topics and many others.
Awesome. Dr. Lott, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your night to come over here with us and help us to understand these issues.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Everybody, don't go away. We got more coming. We got Lieutenant Colonel Shin coming on. This is Battlefront.